All right, hey Vikings fans, welcome in to another episode of the Skol Hop. I'm Evan.
And I'm Austin.
We're just a couple of dudes from Iowa. We like drinking beer and talking about the Vikings.
Heck yes, we do. And you know what? Tonight we tried on some comfy pants from Lion Bridge Brewing out of, where are they out of? Cedar Rapids?
Cedar Rapids, yeah. And you might think that we aren't fully Vikings fans because we spend a lot of time talking about other teams, but rest assured, we really are Vikings fans. We also may have been slightly distracted by the college football national championship game that was happening. Congratulations to the Indiana Hoosiers.
Yeah. And we only talked about those other teams because those other teams are actually in the playoffs right now. True. And the Vikings missed the playoffs this year. But wait until next year. And before then, we also spent some good time talking about some of the big decisions the Vikings are going to have to make at some of the positions this offseason before next season starts.
Yeah, and I have a feeling we're going to be talking about those for a long time, many months until next season starts. But wherever you're at right now, grab a cold one and join us for episode 123 of the Skol Hop.
Skol. We want to say thanks to episode sponsor, that's Badass Wood Art, for sponsoring today's episode. If you're watching, we've been showcasing it here for quite a while now, but we are showing off our small piece that says Skol on it, one of these wood art pieces that it's probably one of their more popular pieces. It's probably really easy for them to whip these, not easy, not to diminish it, but really quick to whip these up and sell quite a few of them on their own, and we love it here. But we do have our own piece. Probably in the next handful of episodes, we will have a custom The Skol Hop piece that will replace our main flag behind us here on the wall, made out of wood. So I'm really excited about that. But if you are interested in getting yourself a wood art piece like this or similar, go ahead and check out their website. That's badasswoodart.com. And just check out all the stuff. There's a ton of examples of things that they already make. I don't know if they keep an inventory, but a ton of things that they already make. Or if you want to be like us and commission a custom piece, you can do that as well. Just might take a little bit longer to get because, they got to plan that stuff out. But if you do that and you want to place an order, use our promo code. It is SKOLHOP, SKOLHOP, all one word. Use that promo code at checkout. That'll get you 10% off any and all orders, which is pretty sweet. Thank you very much. That's Badass Wood Art.
Yeah. We got to move this now, not because it's not worth looking at, but we got to pour some beer into these glasses here in a little bit. So, but before we do that, we do not have to take a shot of Malort.
We don't?
Because the Bears lost.
Oh, shucks.
Yeah. Well, I told you this earlier. I'll say it again. I was kind of rooting for the Bears.
Oh, you true fan. You really are.
I was kind of rooting for it. Well, who would you rather root for? Would you rather root for the Bears or the Packers?
Nobody. I wanted them both to lose in Wild Card weekend.
Well, one of them won. It was the Bears.
Yep.
We were all happy the Packers lost.
Yeah, that's always a good day.
I think you can root for the Bears. They are not evil like the Packers are. The Packers are terrible. I hate the Packers.
We hate the Packers. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say evil, because there's a lot of good people on the team and in the organization. Same with the Bears and everything. I mean, if we want to talk evil, we could bring up Lions fans, but we don't need to go there.
You did that last time.
I kind of went there. You came just short of yelling at me, even though the Lions fans are the worst fans in the history of sports fanhood.
Okay. You got your one. That's it. You can't do that the rest of the episode.
I probably won't say it again.
But all that to say, the Bears lost. It was actually kind of a heartbreaking loss for the Bears. We'll get into that later because I believe your game ball involves that game.
Maybe.
Probably not for the Bears. But no Malort because the Bears lost. We should be done with that until next season. So,
well, hopefully longer. But yeah, because the Malort rule for listeners that just jumped on to the Skol Hot bandwagon here, every time the Vikings lose to the Bears, we take a shot of Malort. And then we also kind of made another rule where if the Bears ever win a playoff game, we'll take a shot of Malort. So we had to take a shot last week. I gotta say, I think I'm coming around to Malort, man.
I don't. I can do a shot of it, be done with it, and move on. But I'm not gonna sit there and I'm not gonna go somewhere and say, "Hey, give me a double of Malort." I neat.
I might.
Thanks.
Just to try it, just to see. All right, is that really? Am I really a fan of it, or am I just crazy in the head?
Here's what I think of Malort. I think the creator of Malort was bullied, and while he was being bullied in elementary school, he ate a lot of dandelions because kids on the playground would shove his face in the dirt.
Jeez.
And that inspired him to make Malort because that's what it tastes like. And that's how I think we got the Malort that we have.
All right. Well, that's one theory. Listeners, if you know how Malort came about, go ahead and comment and let us know. I'm interested in learning about that. You might be right, though. Like, you might be right. Maybe it was some kid that got bullied and ate dandelions. And liked it, apparently. He had to have liked it if that's what happened.
That's just my theory.
Okay.
Let's get into drinking some good stuff, though.
Yes.
We've had Lion Bridge before. We've been to Lion Bridge before.
We need to go back, honestly.
Yes, I would enjoy going back. It's not that far. Only probably a long hour in Cedar Rapids.
Yeah.
But I've seen this on the shelf before at Hy-Vee. And I saw it, and I'm like, we should try that. It's called Comfy Pants Winter Warmer. It's described as being cozy, malty, crisp, and embrace, which I didn't know embrace could be an adjective. It seems more like a noun. But that's just the English teacher in me coming out.
Oh, man. I'm trying to find the ABV, and I just searched Lion Bridge Comfy Pants. Apparently,
you can buy yourself
Google thought I was looking for legitimate comfy pants. I might have just found it, though. According to this website, which is not the Lion Bridge website, it says the ABV is 7.2.
Oofda. All right. Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's all right.
But anyways, it's been really cold here. That's why I picked it up. It's been I think it's probably like 0 degrees outside right now.
It is bitterly cold. It's a kind of cold that you could get frostbite if you're out long enough. We have a wind chill
of 1 degree as of right now, 8:45 on Monday night. So with that, I figured it'd be nice to put on some comfy pants.
Yeah. So I did double check on Lion Bridge's website. They do list the ABV for comfy pants at a whopping 6.8.
Okay, so 7.2 is a little
yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, that's not that different.
True.
If you drink enough of these, you're gonna wake up with a headache. But we're not going to drink too many of these.
No.
I'm excited. I am kind of doing a modified dry January. It's only modified because the podcast is the only time I'm having alcoholic beverages. I think I alluded to that last week when we drank the Zero Eddies from Big Grove. So since we attended the Vikings-Packers game, the last game of the regular season, since then, I've only had 3 beverages, which I'm pretty proud of. But I'm wondering if that's enough time for my tolerance to kind of go down a little bit. We'll see.
Yeah, I guess
because I plan to have, 3 of these.
You don't have to have all 3.
Oh, I know I don't have to, but this is kind of getting me through dry January, which doesn't make any sense at all, by the way.
It's a mostly dry January.
All right, we're pouring these things. Did it say what kind of beer it was?
No. It says a Comfy Pants Winter Warmer, Cozy, Malty, Crisp, Embrace. That's all it says.
On the website, it does say it's a rich or a full-bodied English strong ale. Apparently, whatever that is.
I'm getting some banana vibes.
Okay.
Which some beers can kind of give off that banana-y.
Isn't that kind of like...
It's more like a Hefeweizen wheat, but I can smell it a little bit.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's some... It's definitely a banana-y. I was going to say mostly fruity, but yeah, kind of a banana-y smell. I don't expect it to taste like that.
I can smell the malt. It's definitely dark. It's not completely dark. It's not black.
It almost looks layered.
But it's brown. Yeah, it does. It's lighter on the bottom, and then the closer you get to the top, it's a little darker.
That could be our glasses, too, which are shaped like footballs.
Could be.
Either way.
I'm excited to try this. I think it's going to taste really good.
Let's go. Skol.
That's complex.
There's
I like that.
There's a boozy aspect to it.
A little bit, yep.
Kind of like what you get when you drink like a barrel aged.
Mm-hmm. I can taste that.
Just in flavor.
It's not barrel aged to clarify, but it does. I would agree with that. I like a good barrel aged beer.
Yeah, English strong ale is what they say it is. So that's probably pretty accurate. I don't think I've had this before. I know I haven't had this before.
I looked on our list. We've not had this on the podcast.
Yeah. I do enjoy everything. I haven't, not enjoyed anything I've tried from Lion Bridge. Is Lion Bridge the one that makes the Captain Crunch, Crunch Berry or whatever?
Yep.
I just had that on purpose recently out, before dry January. But yeah, that's a
good one.
That goes to show Lion Bridge. I'm not a sour guy, but Lion Bridge, they make some good stuff. Add this to the list of good things they make. I like it a lot, and it's not even my style of beer that I like. This is
me. Yeah, this is, and it's probably why I was drawn to it on the shelf. It was like, yeah, that sounds, especially right now when we're in the thick of the cold part of winter and it's 1 degree outside. Like, yeah, this sounds good. This will warm you up nice and quick.
It's definitely the beer version of Comfy Pants. I think the name is very apt.
I like it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Evan, for bringing it. It's delicious. We'll give a more well-rounded review here after a couple more towards the end of the episode. But yeah, until then, Lion Bridge, thank you for making yet another great beer.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I have to be honest. We're watching the national championship game as we're talking right now. So, actually, Miami just scored their first touchdown. A little bit more than 11 minutes left in the third quarter. Yeah. So Michael Irvin is somewhere on the sideline going absolutely nuts right now. Hopefully he hasn't taken his belt off yet.
Is that something he normally does?
Yeah, did you not see that a few weeks ago?
No, I'm not a huge college football follower. I obviously like it, but is that Whoopi Goldberg?
Probably. No, that's probably the kid's mom that just scored.
Okay, never mind.
No, Michael Irvin, big Miami Hurricane, went there for college. Had this whole thing on belt to ass. I can't remember if it was the quarterfinals or the semifinals, but it was against Oregon. They played Oregon, and on the Miami sideline they had like an Oregon Duck head, and he took his belt off and proceeded to BTA the Oregon Duck, and it was a whole spectacle, and honestly I think kind of controversial. Yeah.
All right.
But,
well, Michael Irvin is no longer a relevant football player. So that's one thing. Who are you rooting for in this one, Ev?
I want Indiana. I want Indiana to win. Yep.
I
Midwest, agree. Big Ten. Fernando Mendoza is a cool story. Signetti seems like he's a cool coach. Like, just locked in, focused, not letting any of the other stuff get to him. He said after the semifinal win, he was like, I'm ready for a beer or something like that, which just shows he's kind of a down-to-earth guy, and he's not going to get caught up in the big stage. So, yeah, I like Indiana. They're up 10-7 right now.
There you go. They could do it. And it definitely goes to show you what happens when you're allowed to buy a team. So Mark Cuban is definitely making his waves there in Indiana.
We are in a new era of college sports, for sure. But let's talk about the NFL.
Yeah.
We had some divisional games, some pretty crazy divisional games. A lot of interesting stuff happened. We had one blowout that I can think of, at least.
Yeah, the Seahawks really took it to the 49ers.
Yeah.
And I actually ended up watching the whole game. I'm not a huge guy that, unless the Vikings are blowing somebody else out, I'm not usually one that, is fully engaged on football games when it's just a massive blowout. But I enjoyed watching the Seahawks kick the crap out of the 49ers for no reason. I mean, I'm not a huge 49er hater or anything, and I'm definitely not a Seahawks fan, but it was an entertaining game. Most of the playoffs so far have been pretty good
games. Yeah, they've been close. We saw the Bears and Rams go to overtime.
Yeah.
Which was cool. I think that's the only overtime game
so far in the playoffs, yeah.
But yeah, let's do what we did last week. I don't know that we've done this in the past, but I like this tradition of roses, thorns, and game balls. Even though the Vikings aren't playing, we can still talk about the good, the bad, and
it keeps us in routine here.
Who gets the best of the best? So,
Evan, what was your rose for this divisional round?
you alluded to it already, but I liked seeing Sammy D succeed.
Okay.
I almost thought about wearing my Sammy D Skol Hop shirt tonight, but I'm pretty sure one of my kids wore it for pajamas the other night.
There you go.
So I don't know that it's clean to wear, but
that was a good. We should probably figure out like a way to redesign that to be able to post it up without getting in trouble again.
That was a cool shirt.
I did like that shirt. Your wife did a really good job on that design. We'll post up a picture or something of that design. It was pretty fun from last year.
I think a lot of Vikings fans, especially the ones that I've seen on Twitter lately, have been bemoaning the fact that, how could we let the guy go, blah, blah, blah. And honestly, like, we can't do anything about it. Like, we can sit here and complain all we want, but the fact is, Kwesi and KOC let him go, and I think Sam Darnold wanted to stay with the Vikings, and the Vikings weren't willing to pay him what he wanted, and I think that was all he needed to hear. Like, okay, I'll test the water elsewhere, and now here he is. He's going to go play in the NFC Championship game, and good for that guy. We got to talk about him a lot last year as Vikings fans. He brought the team to 14-3 before absolutely crumbling in the final 3 games of the season, including the first game of the playoffs. But it's just good to see him succeed. He's a good guy. He's a good football player, and it's just been a good situation for him. And so I like the Seahawks. They've got a home game against the Rams.
I think they'll beat the Rams.
I think so too. The Rams showed they're not perfect. So
yeah. I agree. Sammy D, I've said this many times. I was a fan of his last year. I will probably always be a fan of his no matter what. I was not one of the people in Vikings fandom that was saying, nope, you got to sign him at all cost. I think at the time, the plan was to sign Sammy D as a bridge guy, and if he wins the job in camp, then he wins, and he's the guy at least for the year, and then go on and draft a quarterback, ultimately 10th overall, which ended up being J.J. McCarthy, and then after that season, then roll with whoever the rookie quarterback had been, and all the Vikings did was highly overachieve with Sam Darnold. Not to take anything away from him, but nobody expected Sam Darnold to perform the way he did for the Vikings in 2024. I kind of thought it would be okay, but no, I didn't think it would be as great as it was. But yeah, their plan was to let him, kind of play 2024 and then move on and execute the plan with the rookie quarterback with J.J. McCarthy in 2025, and it just didn't work out in 2025 with J.J. McCarthy, and hindsight is 2020. You can say, they should have kept Sam Darnold because look how much better he is, and yes, as of now, that's true. But you couldn't have imagined J.J. McCarthy having the struggles that he did. Either way, it's a good rose for you. I think we both agree we're Sam Darnold fans. Seems like a really good dude. He only ever did good by the Vikings, and the Vikings, to a certain point, only ever did good by him. They could have franchise tagged him and kind of screwed up the trajectory of his career. But, yeah, I'm... Unless it hurts the Vikings, which it did at one point this year, I'm always going to be a Sam Darnold fan.
Yeah.
My rose, and it's super petty, and I'm okay with that. I'm just so glad the Bears lost. I've got a lot of friends who are Bears fans. Friend of the show, Forrest, he's a Bears fan.
Yep.
And had it been Michigan that lost, I probably would have texted him and been like, hey, man, I'm actually sorry. I hate it when my team loses. I have yet to reach out to friend of the show Forrest to give him any kind of condolences.
Let me translate that for the audience. What that actually means is Austin grabbed his phone immediately after that interception and said, the Bears lost.
There's a very small even the most petty part of me that would have loved to do that. But no, I'm not one that tries to obnoxiously shove it in someone's face when their team loses because it sucks.
Let's rewind really quick, because you sat here, I sat here, and a Packers fan sat right here. A Packers fan that you work with sat right here when we went to that game, and multiple times, it's probably on the fan cam, multiple times you were so obnoxious, people thought you were drunk off the wall or something.
After
and you weren't.
2 beers, yeah,
and you weren't, but you were like shouting and just throwing it in his face. And there are some other Packer fans near us too, and you are the epitome of an obnoxious.
Okay,
fan.
in the stadium, I got kind of caught up there. Tim, I am sorry, but yeah, there were times where, like, the Vikings could have gained a yard, and I did kind of lean over and stare him eye to eye and go, whoa, like, just very loudly. So, Tim, sorry about that. And I know
Tim's a good sport.
He's been listening to the last couple episodes, so there's a decent chance he's listening right now. But yeah, he's a Packer fan. He's a good dude. And like you said, good sport.
He is.
We had a lot of fun at that Vikings-Packers game. But for the most part, I'm not one that's going to be obnoxious and shove it in your face, unless maybe we're at the game together and I get a little caught up. But yeah, all that to say, I did not text friend of the show Forrest, but I am still very, very, very excited that an NFC North team is not going to be winning the Super Bowl before the Vikings, at least for one more year. So that's my roses that the Bears lost.
I texted my sister. I was kind of like dozing towards the end of that game because I was like, no, looks like the Bears
was pretty
are gonna
boring
win.
for a lot of the game.
Well, it was so cold and neither offense could really get much going. But Caleb Williams throws that amazing dime to Cole Kmet in the corner of the end zone after he scrambled, like it was like a Fran Tarkenton level, like this way, that way, 30 yards back from the original line of scrimmage, and then he just heaved it up. Miraculous catch. I'm sure Chicago went nuts.
Oh, well, that's the kind of play that if they end up winning, and even without the win, that's looked at almost at the level of like the Minneapolis Miracle was. Like, I can't even imagine for Bears fans the level of euphoria, because literally that play, it was either, wasn't it, they score a touchdown or it was fourth down, so I think they could have gotten a first down, but time was running out. It was either get a touchdown or first down or the game was over. It had Caleb Williams been tackled, because he was running straight back, he couldn't have even thrown it away because he was still in the tackle box. I guess it was fourth down too, but he heaved it, and I think I even saw a quote from him, like he wasn't even really sure where it was going, but then it just landed perfectly in Cole Kmet's hands. And people wanted to say, we were kind of talking about this before we hit record, people wanted to say like, oh, maybe there was a push off, but no, that it was mutual contact between the defender and Cole Kmet, and I did not see a penalty there at all, really, from either team. But yeah, it was just perfect. So I think for Bears fans, that was probably Minneapolis Miracle level type play.
But with the heartbreak that comes afterwards. And like as Vikings fans, we didn't experience that heartbreak until the following week. Yeah. And they experienced it, 20 minutes later. Mm-hmm. But my sister texted me because her husband is a Bears fan. She's a Vikings fan, of course. But they were watching the Bears game with interest, and she texted me after that big play. She's like, "Did you see that?" And I was like half asleep, ready to like fall asleep. And when that play happened, I perked right up and I texted her back, and I was like, "That was crazy." And then I texted her pretty much as soon as the game ended, and my text to her was, "And the Bears suffer a very Vikings-like defeat."
It is funny. All season, Vikings fans have been saying, this year's Bears team is just basically the Bears version of the 2022 Vikings, the heart attack Vikings. Yep. And they're right. I mean, there's a lot of similarities between those teams in the way that they won games, even down to having a rookie head coach. But yeah, it ended in a similar way. Yes, the Bears did win a playoff game this year, whereas in 2022 the Vikings lost to the Giants in their only playoff game. But yeah, I mean, these teams, that's kind of why football is so fun, because like I'm sure, like we were saying, a few years ago, like our watches were yelling at us for our heart rates. There were probably Bears fans multiple times this year that were like, "Man, my watch keeps yelling at me for a heart rate," especially the other night. So it was a really fun game to watch. I would have enjoyed it more if I wasn't, an anti-Bears fan. But yeah, to give it to them. The plays that they had, that fourth down pass was incredible, but ultimately the pass of Caleb Williams that mattered the most was that final interception, which we may talk about here in a few minutes.
Well, let's get to thorns. And it's going to seem like I'm just not a Vikings fan at all, and I promise you that that's not the case. I'm not a Bears fan, but I think if the Vikings are out and there's another team that's in and you're okay with them, like you can be okay with them winning, right?
Sure.
That's.
But as a Vikings fan, we shouldn't be okay with the Bears.
If the Vikings are out of the playoffs and the Bears are in, I can be okay with the Bears. I would be okay with the Bears over the other two teams in the division.
But that mindset kind of tells me that you'd also be okay with the other two teams. If the Lions were the only NFC North team in the playoffs, you'd root for them?
Nope, I wouldn't.
And the Packers?
I absolutely wouldn't.
So why are the Bears any different?
I don't know. There's just something to love about the Bears because we've been saying it for a long time. The Bears will bear. And the Bears bared. The Bears bared pretty hard in overtime there.
The Bears bared at an alarmingly bearing amount. It was very bared.
Yep.
So I don't know, Ev.
I saw that meme. You know, there's like that cycle of like being a fan of your team, and it's like you suck for 5 years, then you get the new quarterback, then you get the new coach, then you win a playoff game, and then you suck for 5 years again. And it was like you are here, the Bears, and it's like at the beginning of the you suck for 5 years. And I don't know that the Bears are there yet, but.
Well, do you remember? I mean, we've talked about even right before this season started, like the Bears cycle of quarterback, coach, GM, quarterback, coach, GM. Like they have just had a cycle of drafting a quarterback high, the coach getting fired, then the quarterback not working out, and the GM sprinkled in there as well. So a new coach, and then that quarterback not working out, and then a new quarterback, and then the coach not working. It's just they've been in a cycle forever.
But it seems like they've found a fit.
Could.
At least with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, that seems to be a really good match. I still think Ryan Poles is kind of an idiot, and he kind of just lucked into these other two guys, and they're making him look good. But, yeah, he's still famously quoted for saying, we're going to take the North and never give it back.
Well, and they just got the North, so
for the first time.
Hopefully he's wrong.
And probably only time.
Yeah, because I think the Vikings and the Packers both are going to be better next year than they both were this year.
I think the Packers are going to be bad next year. That's just my way too early prediction.
For it. I want you to be right, and you could be right.
There were all those rumors swirling around about LaFleur leaving, and now they're like, nah, we'll keep him. And Jordan Love isn't a great quarterback. He's decent. He's probably better than J.J. McCarthy at this point, but like marginally better maybe. I don't know. I don't know that the Packers are in for a huge successful season.
We'll see. And they don't have a first round pick for a couple of years too. So because of the Micah Parsons. All right, Ev, I thought we were going to derail in our Roses segment, but I thought it was going to be derailing on the whole Sam Darnold of it all. Turns out we started to derail on the Bears, and then we ended up talking about the Packers. So that was all our Roses segment right there. Thorns, Ev, what's your thorn for the divisional round of the playoffs?
Well, I said this, and then we kind of got derailed, but it's going to sound like I'm not a Vikings fan, and obviously I am because
what?
I'm on a Vikings podcast. But I was on the AFC side. I was definitely cheering for the Bills. The Bills have kind of become known as the AFC version of the Vikings, and it was kind of gut wrenching to watch them lose. And those players were very emotional at the end of the game. Josh Allen was crying in his post game interview, and then this morning, Sean McDermott got fired after a very he was cussing in his post game press conference, I'm gonna go to bat for my players kind of thing, and I think he felt like he got robbed by the officials. I really think the officiating was kind of sketchy. I don't know that it was New Orleans Saints. I don't even remember what year that was when there was all that controversy around pass interference, where one of the Saints players just got absolutely blown up and they didn't call anything. I don't know if the officiating was at that level, but it was still bad. There were two PI penalties at the end of the game against the Bills for 50 yards that got the Patriots in scoring position, right? It was the Patriots that they played. Is that right?
Yeah. Excuse me.
Or was it the Texans? No,
they played the Patriots.
The Patriots. Yeah, I'm getting my games
confused. The Texans lost to the Patriots.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I can't think right now.
They lost to the Broncos.
Yes.
Now we got it. Okay, we're on the right track now. We were both confused. It's okay. But anyways, those 2 pass interference penalties to me were questionable.
We're so wrong, Evan.
Broncos and Bills.
The Broncos beat the Bills. The Patriots beat the Texans. We're just a couple of dudes drinking beer and talking about.
It's
not even
AFC.
The Vikings right now.
It's the AFC. We don't even pay attention to them until the playoffs.
I'm just glad I caught it now and we didn't get next episode.
Thanks for correcting that.
Yeah.
Anyways, it doesn't matter who they played. What matters is the officiating was sketchy. I'm not going to go to the extreme and say it was awful, it was terrible, fire everybody, but it was questionable for sure. Those 2 PI penalties late in the game against the Bills, I think were borderline PI. And then there was that one catch that was ruled an interception for the Broncos where it was Brandon Cooks. He had it. They rolled over, and the defender, in the process of rolling over, ripped it away from him and came up with the ball, and they ruled it an interception.
I actually agree with the interception call.
I don't think that's an interception because I think it's been called the other way so consistently, and I've seen a few instances. I couldn't spout them off the top of my head right now, but I've seen a few instances of a very similar play where it's a tie ball, the tie goes to the receiver, and they wave that off really quickly and say, nope, not an interception. They blow the whistle, and these refs decided not to blow the whistle, see how the play developed. And then I think what ended up happening was there wasn't conclusive evidence to overturn the call, so they just had to stay with the interception. But
so on that one specifically, I'm okay with it being ruled an interception because of the controversy of what a catch is anyways. I think one thing we can kind of all agree with is like having full control of the ball, which did you say it was Brandon Cooks?
Brandon Cooks.
I don't think he ever had full control. Yeah, you could, if you go literally frame by frame, there is one frame where his knee is down on the ground and it looks like he has 2 hands on the ball. But also in that same frame, whoever the Broncos defender was still also had just as much control. And then we also hear surviving the ground as a catch. The Broncos defender was the only one that survived the ground with the ball. It's not a black and white play. It's definitely one that I could understand, people having different opinions on. I'm not going to argue with you about this one. I don't think you're about to argue with me either. But
I want to argue. I'm just kidding.
For me, I lean towards it, actually making sense as an interception because it felt like the defender had more control throughout the entire process of the catch than the receiver did at all.
And I would disagree with 2 things you said. Number one, if in a frame on replay it shows that he had a shoulder on the ground, was being touched by a defender, and had 2 hands on the ball, aka control of the ball, wouldn't that be enough to rule it a catch and he's down by contact? That's the first thing I disagree with that you said. And then the second thing I disagree with is doesn't the tie go to the receiver anyways? Doesn't the tie always go to the offensive player? And so I don't know. I looked at that and just I was kind of baffled that they made that call. And I would also say if you start to break it down frame by frame, like you just alluded to, then that has to become the precedent. And it has to literally be, okay, the video guys in this frame to this frame, here's the discrepancy. In this frame, it's a catch. In this frame, it's not. We're going with this frame, or we're not going with that one, and we're going with this one instead. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I don't know that there's a precedent for that right now in NFL replay, but we may need to get down to the micro level of it all. And now you're looking at it.
Yeah, I am.
You're trying to be New York right now. You're trying to be
well, the thing is that one is a ticky-tack. It is such a this way, that way kind of play. And
right there he's down.
Yeah, but then they hit the ground and it bounces out. I think in this kind of play whatsoever, without the defender there at all, he's going to hit the ground and lose control of the ball. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you're absolutely wrong.
It's such a tough thing, and it makes me appreciate officiating even more. I'm not trying to rip apart the officials necessarily, because it's such a tough job. Even the video replay, it's so hard to see what actually happened and who is the defender there that came up with McMillan. he did a heck of a job. Like, he tracked the ball. He didn't interfere. There was no pass interference, and I'm not claiming that.
Yeah.
And he had his, what would that be, his right hand up to defend the pass, and the other hand was on Brandon Cooks, and they rolled over, and he came up with the ball. Good for him. But
I just think the defender finished the catch for himself at the same time Brandon Cooks didn't finish the catch. It was stolen away legally, I think,
I think it's a tale of two, right? As soon as Brandon Cooks' shoulder hit the ground, the ball was squarely in his hand. Then when McMillan rolls over him, the ball rolls into McMillan's hand, and he comes up with the interception.
You're absolutely right. Then that's where I keep coming back to.
It's a tale of two halves of the play, right? Like, okay, before they roll over, Cooks has the ball. After they roll over, McMillan has the ball, right?
But the ball doesn't touch the ground at any point. That's where I go back to surviving the ground, quote unquote, surviving the ground, and
maybe the better call in that situation for the Bills, anyways, is to rule it a no catch.
Yeah, but it was clearly a catch by somebody.
I know, but
they caught it together, and then McMillan ultimately caught it more. That again, this is not a black and white call,
right? So all of this is why this is a thorn for me.
Yeah,
the Bills lost the game, and I felt like this call and then those two other PI calls I referenced had a big factor in them losing that game. And ultimately it got a really good coach who has a lot of wins in the playoffs and unfortunately no Super Bowls, got him fired today. And that was the burning news in all of sports media today, was the fact that Sean McDermott got fired. And a lot of people, even Stephen A. Smith, who has always got the hot opinion, he was like, I don't think he should have been fired.
No, I don't agree with him being fired. I can see the mindset. It's a similar mindset of firing Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Of not fighting every ounce you can to keep Mike Tomlin in the room. I mean, no more is it okay just to make the playoffs or even win one game in the playoffs. I mean, if you're McDermott, who is a really good coach, and I wouldn't have fired him, but the thing is, like, he couldn't get over the hump.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, make excuses here, make excuses there. Whether they're good excuses or not, it's still like, hey, you can't get over the hump. So, again, I wouldn't have fired him. If I was a Bills fan, I would probably be upset about him being fired, because once you start over with a new coach, I get they're trying to elevate the level. The Bills are trying to elevate the level they're at and get to the next step. But when you start with a new coach, I mean, it's such a crapshoot on if it's going to be a good situation or not.
Did you see that play?
Yeah, there's a pretty big hit on a Miami receiver from Indiana that could have been borderline targeting, or I don't know. But anyways, yeah, and McDermott being fired could be bad news for Kevin O'Connell. It's one of those, like, if Kevin O'Connell makes it to the playoffs next year, is his job safe? I don't know. If he wins a playoff game next year, is his job safe? I don't know.
Yep.
I can tell you, if he doesn't win a playoff game next year, things might be dicey for him. Whether, I like Kevin O'Connell, but I mean, he's at the point now, he's about to enter his 5th year without a playoff win, and that's dangerous territory.
So we spent a lot of time talking about this one thing,
and
obviously there's a lot to unpack there, but I don't know, the Bills losing is a thorn, and it's more than just them losing. I think it's all the ramifications of them losing, and it's not that I'm this diehard Bills fan.
No, yeah.
If I had to pick an AFC team before the playoffs even started, once we knew who the playoff teams were, I would have said, I would have loved to see the Bills go all the way. Josh Allen has nobody in his way. No Joe Burrow, no Patrick Mahomes. Like, the road is wide open. Just go do your thing. Lamar Jackson's gone. Like, just go do it. Go win it, man. And to see it come down to more officiating than just play on the field, that's what got really frustrating for me. And I feel bad for the Bills and for Bills fans.
Yeah, I agree with
I would jump off of a truck bed onto a table in frustration, just in honor of Bills fans.
All right.
Bills Mafia.
Tune in next week. We'll have footage of... No, I'm just kidding. All right, my thorn, and then we can quickly go through game balls to get through our meaty subject this week. my thorn is it seems like Brian Flores is getting some head coaching interest. I haven't seen that he's interviewed for all 10 openings, but with McDermott being fired, there's just one more head coaching opening. But it does seem like he's scheduled for a second interview with the Steelers, who are – there's only been 2 teams since the lawsuit, since Brian Flores opened up this lawsuit against the NFL, there's only been 2 teams that have hired Brian Flores, and the Steelers were the first one to hire him. Mike Tomlin, he was like a linebackers coach, and then he came after one season there to be the Vikings defensive coordinator. So obviously the Steelers are an organization who have proven that they're okay with hiring Brian Flores, and I'd be happy for him as a person if he got another head coaching job. It's going to happen eventually. But with the way the Vikings defense finished out the season, the way players seem to be developing out of nowhere, I'm putting a lot of credit for that into Brian Flores, and I selfishly want one more season with him, at least.
Yeah, that's a good thorn, and has nothing to do with the playoffs, but has everything to do with our team and the development of like kind of an unprecedented level of head coaching openings. Like the market has never been better for Brian Flores to go out and get a head coaching job.
I'm pretty sure I saw this year is tied with like 2 or 3 other years for the most head coaching openings in NFL history in an offseason.
I also saw a really funny meme. I don't even remember what the meme was or what the reference was, but it was something along the lines of Stefanski and Harbaugh going like, man, because they already accepted their head coaching jobs before
they wanted the Bills job.
The Bills job came up, and so I thought that was kind of funny. But it's been such an interesting coaching cycle, and it got kicked off by Harbaugh. Like he was the first one to go.
I mean, there was a couple in season.
Some
the
of the
Titans and the Giants both fired their coaches.
Neither of those were like, headline news. It was kind of like they got on ESPN and it was like, way down the list on your feed is like, oh yeah, by the way, what's his name got fired from Tennessee? Like we don't even remember who it was.
Was it McDonald or Callahan? Know. Something like that.
Maybe Callahan.
All right. But anyways, who gets your game ball for this weekend?
Game ball. It's pretty easy for me to look at all the stats from the games, watching the games. The Seahawks were dominant. Kenneth Walker, 3 touchdowns. That's an easy game ball for me to give.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I think he was the highest single touchdown scorer in all of the divisional round. For me, again, it's continuing my theme of being a petty Vikings fan, but Rams defensive back, what is he, a safety, cornerback? Cam Curl. With that, it wasn't the game-winning interception, but it was was it in the overtime? In overtime.
In overtime, yep.
Yeah, as the Bears were driving down, the Rams had gotten the opening kick of overtime, and it was a 3-and-out, or either way, they punted back to the Bears, and then it was sudden death. The Bears looked like they were going to march down the field and at least get into field goal range, but out of nowhere, Cam Curl gets an interception and totally alters the game, gives the ball back to the Rams, who go down, and they kick a field goal with the thicker kicker. But yeah, so my game ball in that clutch moment, getting that interception, Cam Curl. Never heard his name before that game. Probably will forget his name after tonight, but there you go.
He actually led the team in tackles on the box score, which is interesting. And that was the most important interception of the night for the Rams, but they intercepted Caleb Williams 3 total times in that game.
Who was and it was only Curl got 1, and then
Kobe Durant.
Yeah, he got the other 2. And I think he had a chance for at least one more at one point too. So Caleb Williams was putting the ball in harm's way a few times. He overall played really well, especially that career-making 4th down pass there too. So take nothing from Caleb Williams. It was just he threw one interception too many.
I think the Bears are going to be back. I think they've got a lot of stability now, and Yeah, I think
I think they're set up. Although you could, if we're going to make comparisons between them and the 2022 Vikings, people seemed in 2023 to kind of figure out the Vikings. Plus, then Kirk Cousins. Well, they started off really slow, but once Kirk Cousins started warming up, then he tore his Achilles, and that totally derailed the 2023 season. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of similarities between the 22 Vikings and the 25 Bears, and hopefully the season after is another similarity, and Ben Johnson has a down year. But I do agree with you. I think the Bears are probably set up to be pretty good for at least a few years here.
And I think they've got decent cap space, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to look that up quick.
Okay. Well, and my mindset, too, is always the cap is a myth. They can make any.
Oh, they're $4 million in the hole right now, so maybe not as good as I thought. But they're still not anywhere close to where the Vikings are at. The Vikings are 10 times worse.
Yeah, being $4 million in the hole on January 19th could quickly turn into having $30 million in cap space with like 2 or 3 moves. So that's why I know I'm not smart enough to know everything about the cap for every team, but I always think if they want to make a move, they can figure out how to make the move. But yeah, again, the Bears are probably set up to be decent for a few years, and hopefully they squander those opportunities away like Caleb Williams squandered that final game pass, or the final pass of the game last night.
Well, let's get into our team. We've spent a whole heck of a lot of time.
Yeah, we are a Vikings podcast
talking about other teams, but our team isn't playing anymore, so it's kind of hard to talk about anything. And there really haven't been a whole lot of moves other than Brian Flores getting interviews. Mm-hmm. Nothing really has happened.
They did. It came out they're not going to retain their offensive line coach.
Yep, I saw that.
If the coach gets all the credit for the position group's success or failures, that's one position group coach that I'm okay with letting him walk and trying to upgrade at that position. So, But yeah, other than interest for Brian Flores and that offensive line coach not being retained, there hasn't been anything else that I've noticed.
So let's talk about some possible things that could happen. You've got this Vikings territory article here. Summarize it, give us the quick overview, and then let's dig into it a little bit. Yeah, so
as always, I'm perusing friend of the show Dustin Baker's website, VikingsTerritory.com. I think it was him that wrote this article. Let me just see really quick. Yeah, Dustin Baker wrote this article titled Vikings 2026 Offseason Priorities. So we'll kind of roughly use this article as like an outline of what this segment's going to be. Basically, Dustin lists out some of the moves or non-moves or decisions that the Vikings should or could make this offseason, and some of them they have to make decisions on either way. Real quick, the article touches on TJ Hawkinson, the quarterback position, the running back position, and it doesn't touch on it, but I think it kind of runs with the theme of the article, even though it's not in there. But I threw in Jordan Addison as well. So, Evan, one of the first things is Dustin says they got to make the right call at tight end, and then he talks about TJ Hawkinson and the situation with that, cap-wise, performance-wise, and a little bit of the tight end room other than him. But I think the big question is what should the Vikings do at tight end? We've talked about this a little bit, but Evan, what's your official opinion? Should they totally cut him for pure cap space? In the article, Dustin says if they just let him go, then they still need a tight end. So I think even a TJ Hawkinson, who is his career has been diminished because of a cheap shot from the Lions, even at his stage right now, he's still a better tight end than a lot of tight ends in the league. Evan, what do you think, TJ Hawkinson?
You wanted to do it right there, and you restrained yourself. I'm proud of you.
I just want to be nice to the terrible, worst fan base in sports.
Man, I let one get away. I shouldn't have brought it up. That was my fault.
Yeah, that's on you, Ev.
TJ Hawkinson. Here's my take on TJ. I said this last week. I'm pretty sure I said it last week. I'll stick with it. I think you got to cut the guy.
Okay.
I think he's going to open up a little bit of cap space that you don't have right now. And he's just simply not been performing the same way that he has since his injury. Now, of course, we said that at the beginning of the season, and then this year was such a roller coaster of ups and downs. But it really felt like once J.J. McCarthy got going, TJ was his favorite target.
Yeah, he got a lot more opportunities. And even Brosmer when he was playing.
Yeah, that's purely anecdotal, and I don't know that there's a ton of hard data to back that up. But just as a pretty dedicated fan watching every game with very, very dedicated focus, it seemed like once those quarterbacks kind of got their stuff figured out, TJ became that target because Justin Jefferson was draped in coverage, Jordan Addison was draped in coverage, or if those two weren't being covered like a blanket, for lack of a better metaphor, those young quarterbacks, basically rookie quarterbacks, couldn't find them, couldn't make the reads to get the ball to them. So I get that there was a little bit of a flash there. I get that TJ is still a good player, and I like the guy. I think he's a good player. He seems to keep a pretty low profile. He's not in your face, all over the media, doing crazy stuff. He's obviously not getting arrested, which we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But I think he's a luxury the Vikings can't afford, and truthfully, I think he can still perform at a high level, and some other team might pay good money for him. And so at that point, let's get him out of here. Not because I don't want to see him play for us anymore, but because I think he's too expensive to keep, and it would be really good for his career to maybe find. I think he has one more stop on his journey, unless he becomes one of those 1 year guys that just, I'll sign a year deal here, I'll sign a year deal here, and just pile up a bunch of year-long deals until the end of time. But I think the Vikings can find a tight end. Josh Oliver is a good tight end, and I think he's good enough to be a tight end one, and he proved that when TJ has been hurt. So I'm fine rolling with Oliver in that tight end one position, and then maybe you draft a guy, maybe you bring in, some random guy from somewhere else, and he turns out to be okay to be your second. I don't know. But I think a post-June 1st cut is the most advantageous for the Vikings. You're looking at it right now.
Yeah, if you're looking just to get rid of him for financial reasons, that post-June one, because then you can spread it out between 2026 and 2027, the cap hit. If that's the route they're looking to go fully. I realize that I'm looking through this situation with biased lenses. I'm a TJ Hawkinson fan. I'm an Iowa Hawkeyes fan. It's really cool to have TJ Hawkinson, who at one point was on the trajectory of being considered, one of the NFL's best tight ends. I recognize that. I want the Vikings to keep him. I think that there is a route, unless, and good for him if he chooses this, unless they approach him with a restructure and he's like, no, I can get more money if you cut me and I go to another team. If that's what he were to choose and what his representatives were, advising him to do, good for that. Honestly, I'm okay with every player advocating for as much money as they humanly can get while they're playing, because it's a short time for them to earn that money. TJ Hawkinson seems like a good dude, and when he's at his best, he truthfully plays like one of the better tight ends in the league. His best statistical year was 2023 with the Vikings. 5 touchdowns, 960 yards receiving, 95 receptions in 23, and then he got injured. And that was 2024 he got injured. This past year, 2025, he had about half that. 3 touchdowns, 438 yards, 51 receptions, and a lot of his catches kind of came towards the later part of the year. when he wasn't being relied on as a Christian Darrisaw crutch almost, or a Brian O'Neill crutch. Like he was really asked to do a lot more blocking. And we talked about this, last week and, prior weeks too. But I think it's both scheme and health that his receiving production has really diminished. But if that offensive line can keep getting healthier, excuse me, which it seems like it will. Christian Darrisaw seems to be getting better and better, and he should be okay next year. And if the scheme will open up more for him to be allowed to be a pass-catching tight end, which is what he is at heart, I think we could see that production come back up. He's only 28 years old right now. I think he might be 29 by the time the season kicks off. Oh, July 3rd is his birthday, apparently. So he'll be 29 when the season kicks off. That's still pretty young for a football player. There's a lot of time left for him to make a huge impact if the Vikings and him can agree on a more realistic contract based on the last couple seasons and what we could expect for the next few seasons. I'm all for a restructure to keep him around. Now, if it is they keep him at his current price tag or they let him go, I think that's where, they got to be real and let him go, because he isn't what they signed a few years ago. But I'm a fan of his. I want them to keep him, and hopefully that's with a restructure. And ultimately, it's not like it's our money. Keep him for the full price for all I care. I don't know. But yeah, the Vikings are a better team when he's on it.
I don't disagree with anything you've said. I don't know. He could be one, especially in June, where it's like, okay, we've got to really start looking at how we're going to build this roster for the upcoming season. He could be one that opens up a lot of possibilities if you cut him. Now, if you can restructure him and spread that money out and make it more of a team-friendly deal, and he's willing to do that, then I'm all for that. Because like I said, I like the guy. I still think he's a good player, and I still think he's got a future in him. Like I said, I think maybe it could be a good move for both the Vikings and TJ for him to move on, because he might have a little bit of juice left in the tank that he could offer another team, and it would suck to see him do that with somebody else, but,
Yeah.
Anyways, let's talk quarterback.
Yeah.
So you've got three, and I guess I didn't really read the article, but I'm assuming Dustin/you have three kind of paths that the Vikings can take at quarterback.
So the main gist of Dustin Baker's Vikings Territory article is really just that there needs to be a plan at J.J. McCarthy Insurance. It's been a couple days since I've read the article, but I don't think he was saying, they need to get rid of J.J. or here's how they need to replace him. It's more they just need to have a plan, and that's what he was saying in the article, whether it's, all-out trade for Joe Burrow and totally replace him, or, kind of sign a competition-worthy, potential QB2 or a guy that could beat him out. He was just saying in the article, Dustin was saying, they just need to have a plan, which obviously they will. But so I kind of took that and wrote out should they sign some QB insurance? Do they try to replace him, or do they run it back with Max Brosmer and J.J. McCarthy? So what do you think from there?
Well, I want to know what you think, and then I'll tell you what I think. Right. But you have three things there. Sign another quarterback, bring in somebody from the outside as insurance, not necessarily as a replacement, but as somebody to back him up. Brosmer's chopped liver at that point, maybe a practice squad guy at best. Do you replace J.J. McCarthy entirely and make him sit? He's the two, or you get rid of him entirely and try to, package him together with some draft picks and get somebody else, or roll with J.J. and Max like we did this year and just hope that they improve and get better and the product on the field is better than it was this year.
Yeah.
To me, there's a pretty clear, absolutely not. And there's some wiggle room for the others. I want to know what you think.
So, obviously, we have no control over this. All we can do is root for the team. But if it were me, I would I saw some things in J.J. McCarthy towards the end of the season. That last, 4 or 5 game win streak. Yeah, he took himself out of the game against the Packers, which is pretty rough. That's not something you want to see as a teammate, as a fan. But you know what? It is what it is, and we can't change it, so let's move on. I still have hope J.J. McCarthy can be a long-term, multiple-year starter for this team, a Pro Bowl-level player, hopefully a guy that can take them deep to the playoffs, and we've seen him make passes. This is a dude that the talent is in there to be able to do big things for the Vikings. So with his opportunities being so few so far in his career, yes, injuries are a part of the equation when you're evaluating a guy. But what I hope is that they keep JJ. I'd even say keep Max Brosmer too. He's a good developmental, probably QB3 at this point. But as far as QBs 1 and 2, you keep JJ, and I hope that they sign a guy that could theoretically beat JJ out, but at the very least is going to be worthy, legitimate competition. Even if you sign the guy and you're still saying, yeah, as of right now, depth chart is JJ's QB1, and that's his job until he loses it. But if they make a move like go for Joe Burrow, or even trade a second or a first round pick for like a Mac Jones or something crazy like that, that's a level where it's like, all right, well, that's your guy now. That you don't trade for Joe Burrow without making sure he's replacing JJ McCarthy. I want a guy that if he ends up beating out JJ McCarthy in training camp, good for him, good for the team. Competition breeds the best teams ever. This is kind of hard to talk about because Mendoza just made a career highlight rushing touchdown in the national championship.
That was fourth down.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Fourth down, and there's
he ping-ponged his way.
There's a little bit of context here. There were a few controversial plays that happened, and Kurt Signetti took 2 timeouts within like less than a minute of each other with like 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter, like way early in the fourth.
Wow.
And it paid off. He went for it on 4th and 5. They still had an opportunity to get a first down, went for it, and Mendoza, like you said, ping-pongs his way in for a touchdown. That was a heck of a play, and now Indiana's up by 10.
With 9 minutes left. That's crazy. Anyway, so I guess that was a long-winded way for me to say I hope they keep JJ, keep him in the competition, but that they sign somebody to make it a good competition, and may the best man win the job.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the absolute wrong answer is roll with JJ and Max.
And nobody else.
That would be like, okay, if that's happening and we hit training camp in August and they've done nothing, we're like, whoa, red flag here. KOC, Kwesi, you need to go. Fire everybody now.
Also, let me add to this, because you just kind of said something that made me think. Roll into training camp. So if you remember 2025, there was not really a competition for QB1. It was JJ all the way. The competition was for QB2, QB3, maybe a practice squad spot. And then out of nowhere, they traded away Sam Howell and signed Carson Wentz like a week before the regular season started, and that was their QB room. I think, did they trade, or I think they just cut Brett Rippon too. So like this quarterback room that they had been fostering all offseason, they totally blew it up and got rid of half the room, brought in a new guy that's never been in the room, and kept the least experienced rookie. I like Max Brosmer, but like to roll in and just keep him out of nowhere when you let go of Rippon and Howell. My hope that they bring in competition and that it's a true quarterback competition. I hope they do that like in the draft or free agency, not a week before the season starts. That's not. Carson Wentz would have been a much better Minnesota Viking had they brought him in during OTAs in May or whenever those are, rather than September, right before the season starts.
And let's be fair, Carson Wentz was still the better quarterback.
Statistically, yes.
Statistically, and I think just like in general. And now knowing like all that he was going through towards the end of that stint, it's crazy. I'm still torn. I don't know that I'm like fully 100% on board with JJ number one. Like, honestly, I wouldn't be mad at this point if they said JJ plus these draft picks are going here and Joe Burrow's coming in. Or
I mean, it's a little far-fetched, but it's definitely an option.
Coming in, or, you know, whoever. Like, I wouldn't be upset, and I wouldn't be super shocked if that happened. Especially with some of the stuff that we saw out of J.J. McCarthy the last couple of years, the injury-prone kid that he is, the kind of the like hype man, but like the awkward, like
he's cringy.
Yeah,
he is cringy.
The 9/9, right? And and then the like putting himself in that last game and then pulling himself out. Like there's a ton of immaturity there. There's a ton of stuff, not just on field stuff, but there's off the field stuff that like we took for granted. Kirk Cousins, who was just like this like ultra polished professional dude and like played well enough to really like back up who he was off the field, and like not MVP level, not like, you know, obviously no Super Bowls, but like I think we took that for granted. Like we never had to worry about what was going to come out of Kirk's mouth or what he was going to do, or is he going to pull himself out of this game today because he's dealing with like, no, Kirk went home and like hired like 15 people to help recover his body. We saw that on that Netflix series. Yeah. And when he showed up to work, and he was ready to play, and he played well. And yes, he was a really expensive quarterback to have, and I think it was good that we got him off the payroll because it opened up a lot of possibilities. But having a rookie / redshirt rookie kid with very low maturity was hard at times to deal with. So all that to say, move on from him or bring in somebody to compete with him. I'm okay with either one at this point. We got to keep rolling here, I think, because we could sit here and talk all night.
Oh, and we will. We have a full offseason until they do make this splash of trading for Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow or Mac Jones or drafting a quarterback, you know, in the first round. Like, until they do something like that, all we're going to do is speculate on what we think they should or could do. So you're right. Let's keep her moving.
Let's talk about running backs, and let's talk specifically about Aaron Jones, because I think he's the biggest talker. And I think we talked about him a little bit last week, and I think we also kind of decided that Jordan Mason is probably a Viking hands down next season. I don't think there's really any concern with that. But I think Aaron Jones isn't a free agent yet, but could be within the next 2 years. And he's also getting older and a little bit more expensive. So my opinion is, just to quit beating around the bush, I think TJ Hawkinson, you move on from him, and I think you move on from Aaron Jones as well.
Okay.
Again, unless he's willing to take a really nice team-friendly deal. You love the leader that he is in the locker room. Is he up for another year?
So both Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones, they're both signed through 2026, so through this coming season. But it's also the final season for both of them as their contracts sit right now. Jordan Mason is he'll be 27 years old when next season kicks off. Aaron Jones will be 31 when the season kicks off here in September.
So I guess even knowing that, like, it makes me think two things. Number one, Jordan Mason gives you a better shot at more stability in the future. Aaron Jones toughed it out this season, and I think probably could have sat out more than he did, but he chose to, be the leader that he is and toughed it out despite, I think, lower production and whatnot. But I think Jordan Mason gives you the better chance to be successful long term. But knowing how old Jordan Mason is, I almost wonder if you just start over and maybe you do draft high. Maybe you do try to trade up for a Jeremiah Love or something similar in the draft and see if you can build around him rather than try to pay these older guys, right? Because you've notoriously said since this podcast started, don't pay running backs.
Yeah.
Well, the best way to not pay a running back is to get a really talented rookie from the draft, get him on a rookie deal for 4 years, maybe offer that 5th-year extension, and then, move him on, or, try to spread his second contract out over 5 or 8 years or whatever. But then again, you're stuck with him unless you decide to trade him or cut him and eat that part of his contract. So it's a sticky thing, but I wouldn't be opposed to a little bit of an overhaul in the running back room. I like the 2 guys that are in there a lot. You've got to like the leader that Aaron Jones is. He's a great guy that way, but I think just too expensive and too old.
Yeah. Yeah, so Aaron Jones has a cap hit of for 2026 of $14.8 million. And I know I said this a handful of weeks ago, but if you remember when it was a tough decision for the Vikings to make to cut Dalvin Cook a few years ago, they did that because he was set to make about $14 million that next coming season. Aaron Jones, I think his birthday's in December, so later in the season he'll be 32. But at 31, all he's done since he's been with the Vikings is impress me. When he's been healthy, which has been most of it, he didn't miss a single game in 2024. He missed a decent chunk of games in 2025. But when he's been healthy, there's been many a game where we've kind of sat right here in the Skol Man Center and said, like, man, Aaron Jones he quietly helped the Vikings a ton. Like, it was noticeable when he got that 10-yard run. Like, I think he is a net positive for the team. Very expensive for a 31, 32-year-old running back at $15 million almost. Whereas Jordan Mason, his cap hit for this coming season is $5.8 million. That's all if spotrack.com is, totally true and accurate. But because of that, I almost think, and especially with the way Kevin O'Connell's offense works so much better if they can get I'm sure if we look how many games Kevin O'Connell has won when he's had a 100-yard rusher or when the team has rushed collectively for 100 yards, it's probably way more wins than losses when that scenario happens. I wish I could very quickly pull up that exact stat, but I'd bet Kevin O'Connell is, way more successful each game when his team rushes for 100 yards. And that's just, in a pass-heavy offense, if you can supplement and get any yards at all to help out in the run game, that's huge. And I think Aaron Jones, when he's healthy, only helps that. So I'd be okay with keeping both Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason, maybe trying to restructure a little bit with Aaron Jones, but don't mess with that too much because this could be his last year as an NFL player or definitely a starter. But then I'd definitely be okay with a first-round pick, a second-round pick, drafting a good running back. I've said it 1,000 times. I'm not a draft expert. I'm not a college football expert. I don't even know if there could be 1,000 running backs this year that are first-round pick worthy, or one. We keep saying Jeremiah Love. Is that the name?
Yeah.
From Notre Dame?
Notre Dame.
That's literally the only running back I know from college football that is entering the draft. And obviously there's tons and tons more running backs. But I don't know. I just knowing the Vikings, knowing how the offense runs smooth when both Mason and Jones are healthy, I'd be okay with keeping both with the caveat of supplementing that running back room. I don't think you can run it back with Xavier Scott. You definitely can't go back into the season, with Ty Chandler as your RB3. You need to bolster up and maybe a guy that you're signing now to replace both of those guys next year or the year after, just get some more talent in that room.
So one guy we haven't talked about yet, and then we probably need to wrap this up and talk real quickly about the NFC, AFC
There's only
games.
two games next week to talk about anyways.
But Jordan Addison got in trouble again, and it sounds like this one isn't super egregious. It sounds like he was at a casino and he was asked to leave multiple times and he didn't. And I think it just sounds like they had to escort him out.
Yeah. Well, he ultimately got arrested.
Got booked, but then got released, of course.
Released from jail, not from the Vikings.
Yeah, released from jail. Sorry, released from being held in behind bars. But this is his third or fourth run in now with law enforcement, and he's also not been like immaculate in terms of team stuff either. Like when they were over in Europe for 2 games this season, he was in trouble and faced team discipline. He sat out at the beginning of one of those games.
Yeah, it was either the first half or the first quarter of, I think, it was one of the games.
It was the second game, and it was KOC's decision.
Yep.
I think he said it was a coach's decision. I kept him out first quarter just kind of as a consequence for his actions, which we found out later.
He missed a team meeting or whatever is what they said.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I just interrupted you. It sounds like he was out super late in a foreign country, partying or hanging out or whatever he was doing.
It's interesting you put Chris Carter on here as like a comparison to Jordan Addison, because Chris Carter cleaned his life up like pretty dramatically. And truthfully, that was one of the reasons why he was one of my favorite players ever growing up as a kid, was just because it was like, wow, he's that rags to riches guy. Like he's that, like his life was a mess. And like when he was with the Eagles, Chris Carter got drafted by the Eagles. He was like a drunk and couldn't like hardly stand upright most of the time. And
it sounds like it wasn't even just alcohol that he was messing around with either.
Other
like,
stuff.
Yeah.
And I think the Eagles were just like, yeah, good riddance. Get this guy out of here. Like he's not going to last 2 seconds anywhere else. And Denny Green had kind of this like big heart for these guys that were struggling. And like Randy Moss was another one that he had his fair share of off the field issues, even in college before he was drafted. And Randy Moss historically fell in the draft until the Vikings picked him up. So it's interesting that you put him on there, because that definitely piqued my interest. And I would just say, honestly, like I would be the Eagles in this situation and say, get rid of him, move on. I don't know how successful he'll be. And sure enough, it would be the most Vikings thing ever if they got rid of Jordan Addison and he becomes the second coming of Jerry Rice or something like that. I'm willing to give the kid another chance, but I think he has to develop some sort of boundaries. He's got to have some accountability for some of these things, and he's got to learn. Like, yep, you are a successful athlete in the biggest league in sports. You're making a lot of money, but we're going to put some good people around you to prevent you from getting in your own way. I think you even said something like that when I texted you that he'd been arrested. Like you said something along the lines of like, the kid can't get out of his own way. And that seems like what's happening here. Like he's got a little bit of a big head and he's got a lot of money, and when he's kind of cut free, it's kind of like Dennis Rodman, like let's just go, let's go have fun, let's just see what happens, and hopefully nothing bad happens. And for him, a lot of bad has happened, to the point where like he's kind of on the brink. He's teetering on the edge of being a Viking next year or not. So
I agree. I think for me at this moment, I think it sounds like you'd be okay with the Vikings just getting what they can for him. The Eagles actually, if you remember, and I just looked this up today, when Chris Carter, when they were done with him, they just cut him. They were like, all right, you're out. And the Vikings picked him up on waivers. Like, they didn't even have to trade for him or anything, which in hindsight, they picked up on waivers the guy that would end up being the best wide receiver in Vikings history on the field, which is kind of crazy. But it seems like at this moment, Jordan Addison is kind of facing, looking himself in the mirror and in a similar situation that Chris Carter must have been in as the Eagles were deciding to cut him. Now, granted, it sounds like Chris Carter, if we can believe the internet, which you can never really believe, he was dealing with, drugs and alcohol and some pretty serious stuff. And it seems like, turned his life around. Jordan Addison, he's done some pretty dangerous things, driving under the influence and, some stuff you don't ever want your player on your favorite football team, or let alone like your friend or child or anything to be putting themselves in. But overall has gotten out of these situations, thankfully, without hurting himself or anybody else, and hopefully he can get the help he needs to get this stuff figured out and kind of get out of this habit of making bad decisions. He's going to be 24 years old this month. That's still pretty young. At 24 years old, I was not making the best decisions in the world. So not that it makes it okay, but it makes it a little bit more understandable when you kind of have that aspect. Plus, this kid is something you and I have never been. He's a multimillionaire.
Yep.
He's young. He's celebrated. He's got more money than a 24-year-old usually ever has to think about. But he's at a crossroads right now. Like, the Vikings very well may be thinking, all right, he's used up all his chances. One more thing and he's gone. And will that be at the end of his football career? Probably not, unless that one more thing is like, legal prison worthy. But yeah, I hope for him, no matter what, he gets these things figured out and turns it around. As far as being a Vikings fan, I mean, I could see it, and I'd be okay if they're like, yeah, we've had enough. We're going to try to get, a draft pick out of him and move on from there. But also, I am seeing similarities between him and Chris Carter. And Chris Carter, it seems, and I'm not a expert on Chris Carter's life and his biography. I really just look at stats, and I've seen him, on shows and podcasts and stuff. And I was just starting to wake up as a football fan when Chris Carter was retiring from the league.
Yeah, pretty much.
But it really seems like once Chris Carter got released from the Eagles and got picked up with the Vikings, he had like 3 years with the Vikings where he had mediocre stats, 400 yards a season, 500-600 yards a season. After being with the Vikings for like 3 years is finally when he, boom, exploded. And then he had like 9 years straight of over 1,000 yards, and he became a Pro Bowler each of those years and ultimately the best receiver in Vikings history. So Jordan Addison, he's still young. That's still possible for him to figure it out and get it going. But also the Vikings have to make a decision here in a matter of weeks, I think before March or sometime in March, if they're going to pick up his fifth-year option. And if they were making that decision right this second, I don't know if they would, because that's a lot of money. That's a lot of commitment for a guy that may get in trouble.
The incident at the casino in Florida is a little too recent.
Yeah.
Where it's like, man, like that just happened like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I think
I was going to say, and you're right, the incident in Florida getting trespassed, like, yeah, you don't want it to happen, but ultimately, like, it wasn't an OWI. Like, was he being a drunk idiot? Maybe, and maybe that's unfair. I don't know if he was intoxicated, but was he being an idiot and not leaving when he was supposed to? Yeah. Was he out at 3:00 in the morning? That's so dumb. What does Ted Mosby say? Nothing good happens after 2 a.m. But yeah, this most recent incident is a low level one. Nobody got hurt, but it's just another blip. It's like, why do you keep doing this stuff?
Well, and I think you've said it before. I think I've said it before. I'm sure other people have said it before. The kid could be a one receiver on another team.
Yeah.
Like, there's a market out there, just like there was for Chris Carter. Not that he was on the market. The Vikings literally picked him up off the streets. But I don't think the Vikings are going to cut Jordan Addison, like cut him. Yeah. And even if they did, I think he'd be scooped up just like Chris Carter was within a matter of hours. Like, I don't even think it would take a full 24 hours for him to find another spot.
No, he'd be picked up on waivers. Like,
yep.
He wouldn't even fully hit free agency unless the thing he did that was the final straw, again, was like a horrendous thing. Like, he did kill somebody in a car accident or something crazy like that.
Yeah. I don't laugh because I want to see that happen. I laugh because it just would be so preposterous.
Yeah.
But anyways, hopefully he can figure it out, and hopefully the Vikings make the right decision with him, whether that's keeping him or letting him walk. Let's talk super fast. AFC, NFC championship games. Who do you got in the AFC, Patriots or Broncos?
So it's in Mile High. The Broncos just lost their starting quarterback, which, whatever your opinion was about Bo Nix before, if he was the real deal or if he was just a good game manager or whatever, it doesn't matter because he's not playing. I think you got to go Patriots in this one, even if the Broncos have all the confidence in the world in Jared Stidham, former Patriot, by the way. Even if he plays admirably, I think just the Patriots, even if Bo Nix were playing, I think the Patriots have just been playing at a level where they might not be beat this year. They seem like they're back to the old Patriots form, which is really annoying.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Patriots win this one. Vrabel seems to have figured it out pretty quickly, and man, Drake May will forever be one of those, like, what could have been for the Vikings.
Yeah, but it sounds like, and that's a whole nother derailing podcast, or derailing full episode of a podcast. Sounds like the Vikings tried, and it wasn't for lack of the Vikings.
It wasn't for lack of trying.
I don't think the Patriots, even if the Vikings were allowed to and did offer like the next 20 first-round picks, well, maybe 20, the next 5 first-round picks, I don't think that would have been enough. I think the Patriots were standing pat. And
they were set. Well,
they're being proven right.
They got the better quarterback out of the deal
so far.
And I think it's going to result in a Super Bowl trip for them. NFC side, Rams and Seahawks at Seattle. Sammy D.
I think as things sit right now, I think the Seahawks are the better overall team. I mean, they blew out. Who did they beat? My goodness, I already forgot.
The 49ers.
They destroyed the 49ers. Yeah, the Niners had their own list of injuries, but they still destroyed them in the playoffs. Sam Darnold didn't even have to do much. Like, he had 100-something yards passing. Like, he didn't even have an impressive stat line because he didn't need to. I just think the Seahawks are the much better team. They're going to win. The Rams almost lost to the Bears. Like, they needed a lot of fluky things to happen. And granted, the Bears also needed a lot of fluky things to happen too, but I just think the Seahawks, especially in Seattle this year, are the much better team. I think it's going to be Patriots-Seahawks again.
Well, there you have it. Patriots-Seahawks, the Skol Hop prediction for Super Bowl 60, which is crazy to believe.
That's wild.
And we're already at Super Bowl 60. My dad is the same age as the Super Bowl. That's how I keep track. So he turned 60 this year, and it's Super Bowl 60.
There you go.
There you go.
All right, Ev. How could people find us if they want to reach out?
Just Google us, the Skol Hop. It's as simple as it is. I'm wearing our sweatshirt today, the Skol Hop, SKOLHOP. You're gonna find us. We're out there. The major social media platforms are probably the best place to find us: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Those normal places. YouTube and Spotify are where we post all of our episodes, and Spotify does its magic thing, and you can listen to our podcasts pretty much anywhere. So, yeah, check us out wherever you get your podcasts, and drop us a like, a comment, a subscribe. Would be awesome. And let us know. Maybe you've had the Comfy Pants by Lion Bridge before. If you've had it, let us know. I liked this beer. By the way. I did too.
It was really good. The initial really boozy flavor kind of went away after the first couple of sips. And I don't think that's because, oh man, it's hitting me, so I'm not tasting it as well. I think it's just I'm getting used to it. And even with that boozy flavor, it's still a really good beer. I've enjoyed every sip of it, and I can't wait to get it again. Yeah. Well, good episode. I had a lot of fun, and I think we probably could have sat here for a whole another hour and a half. We almost did.
And
a couple times.
If we had more beer and we had more time, we might have done it.
Yeah.
But this is a good place for us to wrap things up. And you said it earlier, we've got all off season to talk about all of these moves that the Vikings could make or should make
and will make. This will be a fun off season, I think.
It's going to be a good one. Yep. So,
all right, man. Great beer.
Maybe best episode yet.
Skol.
Jinx.